The process of standardization was going on since ancient times. Probably it began in construction. The first proto-bricks appeared in ancient Egypt about 3000 BC. Further, the process of standardization was going along with the development of mass production. In the 60s last century, the process began of implementing common standards for professional training in 6 European countries, members of the common market. In 1987, I heard the report of a researcher who worked in the archives of the Institute of History of Science and Technology of the USSR. He studied biographies of outstanding Soviet scientists of the 20th century in various fields. He was looking for a person who influenced the most their professional worldview and called him a teacher. Then he studies the life of these teachers, identifying in turn their principal teachers. Thus, he discovered invisible relays, lines of inheritance that went through centuries. Then I found a study on development of natural science in Europe in the 15th, 16th centuries. It turned out that the science developed the similar way, through invisible relays known as invisible colleges. In my first profession, I am a physicist and biophysicist. Throughout the 20th century, the advances in these fields also occurred via such invisible relays, invisible lines of inheritance. Meanwhile, in 1998 in Paris, at the celebration of 800th anniversary of the Sorbonne, 4 ministers of education from France, Italy, Germany, and the UK, these ministers had nothing to do with any branch of science. They decided, for some general political reason, to standardize the system of higher education in their countries. In 1999, in Bologna, this process was declared pan-European. Russia joined it in 2003 and Ukraine in 2005. From that moment, MEC has experienced problems with government regulating bodies because the system of training existential therapies we developed in our institution did not fit the standards created by regulating bodies. To begin with, our program was constantly changing all over time, and it varied for different groups and training locations. We also did not have required permanent premises with sign plates. Another issue is that for us, a former cured client who became a professional existential therapist was preferable to academic with knowledge from books, but not from his own reflected life experience. In order for the institute to survive, I had to perform a legal slalom. In this universal process of general standardization, three lines came together: mass production, European philosophical and political tradition. In politics, from the 16th century, after discovery of America and further world colonization, the idea of European messianism started to prevail. At the end of the 19th century, Cecil Rhodes formalizes it as idea of building a global civilization living by common rules. In philosophy and in the worldview, the tradition of monism has been dominating. Absolute confidence that the world is a monosystem based on laws that never change. Then we see the struggle, sometimes tragic, between those absolutely sure they know these laws, and then this rising from the depths of Neoplatonism, the eager for building universal abstract answers of increasing complexity to all questions. Voltaire rebelled against Eurocentrism, against monism and against Neoplatonism, but Voltaire wasn't hurt. It was Hegel, Marx, technocrats, progressivists who ruled the minds in the 19th and 20th century. They were committed to the idea that the mankind is developing in an ascending way, and they placed themselves on the top of the pyramid. Spengler rebelled against this in Germany, Lucien Febvre and Marc Bloch in France, but their thoughts remained in the underground of modern civilization. Buber rebelled against I eat world. Was he heard? I have met with enthusiasm Viktor Frankl and his books, his idea that finding the meaning gives a person forces to live. But then I saw that finding the meaning is turned into a universal technique. Meanwhile, variety of client stories show that there are many situations where suffering has nothing to do with the meaning. I have met with enthusiasm Amy van Dorsen and her book Existential Counseling and Psychotherapy in Practice, the language of 4 dimensions of existence. But then I heard from my colleagues It's just enough to scan a person through 4 dimensions, like MRI, and here you have the diagnosis. Everything is clear. However, in practical medicine, to diagnose different disease, various examinations are used. There has never been an idea of finding universal diagnosis tool, as well as universal medicine, panacea. I'm from many generations family of doctors. From childhood, I remember the stories how the same medicine cures one person and does not help another. So doctors always choose the medicine for a particular person. Hans Kuhn expressed concerns about transformation of existential counseling into technology, into universal tool. Universal tools are easily standardized and sold, but particular person disappears in them. In a doctor-patient pair, disappears I, thou, the mutual search and creativity in therapy. In 2019, the World Existential Therapy World Handbook was published. It showed that our world is diverse. There are several different schools of existential therapies that have been developed independently for decades. I think the development of existentialism is connected with the world that we representatives of the school built together. I do hope we will build the logic of dialogue of cultures. The dialogue of cultures requires mutual interest, attempts to see and understand another culture as a different one, with its own history and self-understanding, different philosophy of life. It's necessary to study each other. In my life world, there are characters of Dostoevsky, A. Henry, Shakespeare, and Homer, Charles de Coster and Leo Tolstoy, Saint Fokla and Theodore Dreiser. They are all equal, but at a certain point in my life, one of them comes forward and becomes more significant, but only for this period in my life. When Kant, Lao Tzu, Kierkegaard, Camus, Shestov come into our lives, they are equal to each other. They are not arranged vertically. Through us, they engage in a dialogue with each other. Moreover, they make co-authors, because when I'm giving a lecture about Husserl, I'm not talking about Husserl in himself, but about Husserl who lives and acts in me. What do we need for the dialogue? It's necessary that in the life worlds of all participants, all other participants are present. Dialogue is different from partnership, from alliance. It begins with doubts about perfection of one's own cultural tradition. In the dialogue of cultures, we refuse to search for common basis of different cultural traditions. I call not to establish common parameters for the community life, but to visit each other, meet each other, study each other's experience in its uniqueness and with its unique way of development.
Thank you very much, Simeon. Very interesting and thought-provoking as well, to keep the voice of each culture, the voice of each approach, the voice of each individual, maintaining our unity and our bridges.